Welcome to the Damn Yankees podcast. I'm Ryan. This is my sister Megan and our off-screen producer Cliff with us. We are the Damn Yankees. Welcome back if you were with us last week. If you're just joining us, welcome. We're just a podcast that talks about the Yankees. Yeah. And our frustrations and delights. And delights about the team.
That was super eloquent, Ryan.
That's what we are, the eloquent podcast.
Yeah. Not an English pod.
All right. So, we can start off with one of our biggest fans here and our biggest supporters. Our mother would like us to issue a retraction from last week. So she does want everybody to know that she does know what team that she should root for.
Yeah. The past couple years, she's been a really big Buffalo Bills fan. She knows she was a Buffalo Bills fan for the last few years. Throughout 2008 to 2011, she was a Giants fan. So she knows every year which team that she is rooting for. So I do apologize,
Whatever New York
Mom.
Football team is on the TV is who Mom is rooting for, and that is her prerogative.
So I am sorry, Mom, for saying you don't know who you're rooting for. You know which of the three teams you're rooting for in which year.
That's right.
And now you know she's listening.
Yeah.
She was also surprised that we didn't mention that our Uncle Jimmy played for the Yankees, at least the Yankee minor league system.
Which we've talked about prior to. And how we do that. But I feel like it's such a big story and there's so much history there that we're not still
it's fully, not quick, so we kind of want to have a little bit of time to talk about it. It's pretty interesting. So, maybe stay tuned for a future podcast where we talk about our Uncle Jimmy and how he is connected to Babe Ruth in our family legend, I guess. I don't know.
Gasp.
Yes. So that'll be fun, and we can dive into that in another pod. All right, and then one other thing that Mom wanted you to know is that she does not lose everything, believe it or not.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
She doesn't.
All right. Well, I'm sorry.
Well, when I saw her last week, she wanted me to make sure you knew that your Johnny Damon glove was safe and sound in her closet, she said.
I feel like that this has come up multiple times about hey, do we recalling the story of the Johnny Damon getting the glove signed that
you think she'd remember? Well, it must have just dawned on her. Well, you have it now for those legit Johnny Damon autograph there.
Well, and speaking about,
you can have that back.
Thank you. Well, speaking about autographs, I did get in contact with my best friend Ryan Stewart about the Aaron Judge signed ball because I had been nervous on asking him if he had it, but ironically, a couple days before we even filmed the podcast, he had been talking about it with another friend of mine that we had gone with. His name is Buddy. Him and Buddy were just talking about the baseball and how cool it is that they have it, and just how it even confirms that it was 2017, spring training 2017, because Chris Carter was there. Jacoby Ellsbury was active. Not injured. So the fact that the two of them are on the ball kind of confirms and dates. Yeah, that it was legit. Legit time frame from when before we knew how great Aaron Judge could be. Or was. So, that's pretty cool. Nice update. I'm glad he still has it. Yeah, me too. I bet he was really glad. I'm like, hey, look at this little. I'm still jealous that I gave it away, but I'm at least happy that he has it. No, I left it in a box somewhere. It got lost somewhere. That would have been even more tragic. Yeah, yes, very tragic. Yeah, crushing. Yeah. So good thing he's glad he still has it. Well, at least we got that. You still have that. And I got the Johnny Damon glove. So that's good news all around. One thing I get a guy who helped us win a World Series, and he's got the captain of the Yankees team. That's right. So good deal. All right, so we'll move on to what we had planned talked about today was kind of, the state of the Yankees. How did we get to where we are? Not trusting the front office to make a decision to save their life. And, kind of what's happened since we won 5 rings in
between 1996 and 2009. So we want to know, why we haven't won since then. So we'll talk a little bit about that today. And what are your thoughts on that?
Obviously, you kind of got to experience more, like we talked about last week. You got to experience more of the early dynasty. I kind of came in as the initial dynasty was ending, but then we did get the 2009 World Series. There were a couple of hiccups in between the loss. The Diamondbacks, between the Diamondbacks loss and then the win against. Was it Marlins first?
Marlins lost. Oh yeah. Oh, quick aside about that. Mom said we could go to I could. I don't know if she was going to take you or not, but I could go to that Marlins Yankees World Series game. The Marlins clinched first, and I said, "Let's go."
Yeah.
And she didn't think that the Yankees would win. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
She'll probably, I don't know. She'll probably disagree with me on that.
That one too,
but she didn't want to buy the tickets until it was a sure thing that the Yankees were in it, and the prices went up like
a lot.
So much. I think it was something like $60 tickets for nosebleed compared to $300 or $500 nosebleed tickets.
Was that the 2003 loss?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
That wasn't the Diamondback loss.
Diamondbacks was 2001.
You're right. Yep.
Oh, I remember that day.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah. So there was a couple of hiccups though in between 2003 and the 2009 World Series win.
Sober, those hiccups.
But in general, those were pretty exciting years to be a Yankee fan. Like I kind of grew up through the 2003 loss into 2009. But since then, I would say I guess the biggest thing is that kind of going away from the George Steinbrenner era. I mean, obviously, George Steinbrenner passed away in 2008, and those keys were passed on to his son, Hal. And I feel like initially Hal tried to be like George and got like his dad and got kind of bit.
Well, sure.
In a couple areas.
We missed the playoffs in 2008, and I think they were like, "Oh God, that happened." So they spent pretty big. They spent in the right ways.
Yeah, but since then, I feel like we've been kind of had. It's been more of a series of hiccups with big contracts, big misses on current players on the team going elsewhere, injuries with those contracts, signing old players who, were past their prime. I think that was a big. Since after 2009, I feel like that was a big trend on Cashman's part, was signing, we traded for Lance Berkman when he was 37 years old,
I forgot about that.
There was a lot of forgotten, those type of players. Kevin Youkilis.
Oh God, yeah.
I mean, those are small ones.
No. Yeah, no.
Those are small ones. I feel like one of the ones that only did okay was Chase Headley had a little bit of a success in that arena. Yeah. Todd Frazier did all right.
Yeah,
coming back
but
in.
they weren't huge contracts, and they were just what we needed.
Yeah.
And Chase Headley had his ups and downs, but he had moments where he was.
But I think a couple of the big catalysts. The first one I think is A-Rod. A-Rod did sign contract in 2008, so this wasn't something that was signed after 2009. And in 2009, he was
key part.
I mean, one of
2009. Yeah, we don't win the 2009 World Series without A-Rod.
Yeah. And for all the A-Rod haters on the Yankees side of Yankee fans who hate A-Rod, I mean, I think we have to at least give him credit on that end. A-Rod, I mean, that's a whole different story, and maybe we can talk about in that future episode. In a future episode, does he deserve to be
does he
retired the Yankee jersey?
Yeah, I mean, they gave his number to Joey Gallo, so I'm not sure the Yankees agreed to that.
Yeah, the Yankees probably would never, but should it? I think that is a conversation in the future. But what transpired after 2009, I think,
really kind of set the course.
For how we spent money with our players. I mean, 2013, he gets suspended for 211 games for PEDs, and I think that got reduced later. But
ends up full season.
Basically a full season. Longest suspension ever until Trevor Bauer. Yeah. Who, by the way, just re-signed with the Japanese team.
I saw that.
Not surprising that's the only place where he could go.
I really didn't think anybody would even pick him up for the league.
I thought that, and this isn't to sound bitter, I thought the Astros might sign him, and that's not to sound like the Astros would be the type of team.
Of course, the Astros would pick him up.
With them losing, Verlander,
Sure.
I thought that they might sign someone like him to a veteran minimum.
Yeah.
But I also understand why no team wanted to touch that.
Yeah.
You know?
PR nightmare. I mean, I have my own feelings, and we won't get into them. But whatever you feel about it, PR nightmare.
Yeah.
I mean,
no matter what, whether you think that he was wrongly.
Yeah. Nothing anybody wants to deal with.
Yeah. So anyway, getting back on track though, that suspension I think was a big, a big part of what the Yankees started to go away from signing big contracts. I mean, you have that suspension that comes into play. A-Rod was already struggling a little bit post 2009. I don't have stats on him offhand, but I feel like his numbers were dipping after 2009 a little bit with how much we had paid him, for how long we were paying him for. We signed him re-signed 2008, so he would have been through a contract with us in 2018. So, he was not performing already to the standard of what we were paying him.
Yeah.
And that winter, in 2013, going into the 2014 season, Cano's contract was up. And he was offered $10 million, $240 million from Seattle, and all we offered him was 7 years, $175 million.
Yeah.
And he turned it down, of course. I mean, if someone was offering me 10 years with a lot more guaranteed versus 7 years with less guaranteed, I think that the choice there is obvious where you would go.
Sure,
but we did not.
I mean, I'd certainly blamed Cano at the time, but I don't, in theory, blame Cano. And maybe in retrospect, it was a good decision to not re-sign Cano. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because he had a very similar...
Yeah, learned from A-Rod, apparently.
Yeah, he had a very similar 10-year contract to A-Rod. I mean, he's now a free agent in his 40s.
Yeah.
Bounced around with 3 teams last year.
And gets DFA'd by the Mets, right?
Yeah, Mets, Braves, and Padres. All they got DFA'd by each of them.
All of that, yeah.
But yeah, he dealt with his suspensions from PEDs as well. So maybe in retrospect, it wasn't a bad thing. I mean, his first few years in Seattle though were really good.
Could have used him.
But we shied away from that contract.
We had the 10-year
because of A-Rod, and we were not willing to give another 31-year-old a 10-year deal that he was going to be.
So instead, we give it to
Jacoby Ellsbury because he gets that 7-year, $175 million. Money and
at the time I remember being really excited about that contract.
I thought he was the next Johnny Damon.
Exactly. I thought, a
better version of Johnny Damon, someone who could hit home runs more consistently, but he just never found it. I think he had one good year in 2014, 2015,
possibly, but it's so overshadowed by the rest of it. That's all the injury. That's all I remember. It's just
injury after injury.
Do you even exist anymore?
I mean, there was a few years, 2017, I think he was on our roster, but he was not playing at all because of injury. It was I remember looking at the injury list because we had to look at the injury list so often because of how often we were injured.
Shocking.
That was it. 2018 was that the year that I know 2017 was a really good year, but 2018 I think was the year that we kept having players come up from injuries.
2018 was next man up year.
And I remember constantly looking at the injury list to be like, oh man, who's in it? And always the name on there, 60-day DL, Jacoby Ellsbury. And I feel like that year or 2019 was his last year on the roster. But we're still paying him up until last year. I think this is last year on the official contract, on the official payroll.
What a terrible contract that was.
So between those two things,
I mean, almost worse than, I know this
things.
isn't really in the time period that we're talking about, but like Carl Pavano contract was awful, but I would put Jacoby Ellsbury's as worse than that.
Yeah, I think Jacoby Ellsbury's has to be one of the worst all time. I know people throw out there that Kevin Youkilis contract was bad, but it wasn't that much money, and it was 1 year.
Yeah, I mean, you've got some bad decisions made for 1 year, okay, but that's not on the top 5 worst contracts. Yeah,
where we're paying somebody quite a bit of money for
to do nothing.
Is very frustrating. So, when it comes down to it, especially when Hal has not been willing to go over those tax brackets in past years. I mean, that we were trying to not spend so much money to
so
get
that
under
we could
brackets.
Get under the luxury tax, and then I hate when the Yankees play that
And so
game.
when you have players who are basically dead weight in their money, it makes it very difficult to pay anybody else.
And of course when they, this kind of leads into the next part, but of course when they're paying people a lot of money, they want them to play.
Yeah.
They want you to play because that's your value. We paid you this much money,
so
we need you to play.
Yeah.
So I get that mentality, I guess, from the front office, but it's certainly hurting them now.
Yeah. And why we have not won, because we're not signing, we did not go after Bryce Harper.
Right.
When
wasn't even a
consideration, which I thought, and I get it at the time. I think we got it.
It was
the same year that we traded for Stanton.
Yeah.
But at the same time, George would have done it.
Yeah, George would have gotten both and said, "We'll figure it out."
Yeah. And especially now that Stanton can't really play the outfield. I mean, Harper really doesn't play much now that there's universal DH.
Yeah.
On the NL side, he
but
plays mostly.
They could have shared the spot. And just kind of
rotated.
But
Machado the same thing.
Right. Yeah.
We didn't sign Machado, which again, I think that it would have been either Machado or Harper, and we didn't do either because we just got Stanton.
And I think they started to shy away. Especially in the early 2000s. Of course, it was the Yankees always buy their championships. The Yankees just always buy their championships, and it's the Yankees have always spent money. At least as far as I've been a fan, the Yankees have always spent money. They always try to build a winning roster.
That's why we're called the evil empire. Because
right. So, I always was why wouldn't they have money? Why wouldn't they spend money? All these owners have money, by the way, but why wouldn't you spend money?
I saw this recent thing with, basically the guy was calling out owners because of this whole Steve Cohen thing.
Yeah, some of them have come out mad at Steve Cohen and this is making us look bad, or some clubs can't do this. BS.
Yeah, and then they showed this guy was basically showing what these owners' net worths are, and then how much they spend. The A's spend less than $40 million a year on their payroll.
Yeah,
and they have an owner who is worth in the hundreds of millions.
Yeah, a lot of these owners are they own part of oil companies and stuff.
Rays are another one that refuse to spend money on players. And the Rays, I feel are the ones that kind of get a pass from fans because they do well.
Yeah, at least they're able to. Yeah, they're able to work their teams to be in the conversation every year.
But they have fish tanks in their stadium.
They're stingray tanks.
Yeah. But anytime they have a player that shows any promise, they trade him.
Right.
And it ends up working
the Marlins,
for
right?
them.
They win the World Series and bye.
Yeah, well, except the Rays don't win the World Series.
Right, except for the winning the World Series part. Yeah. That's true.
But yeah, if you look at throughout the Rays history, anytime they have a good player, they trade him away.
Kiermaier, all these. Yeah.
Chris Archer, which turned out good for them.
Yeah.
Some of the decisions are good decisions, but they have a rich owner.
They choose not to
because they're putting all the money into trying to buy a new stadium.
To put money into the players. So I don't know why I do know why the Yankees shied away from it because they put money into one player.
Would they put money into one player or old players?
Or old players.
That's why I never understood the Machado and Harper thing. You have players who are younger asking for 10 years.
The only thing I could think about the Machado and Bryce Harper thing is, I think at the time, especially with Machado at the time, he was,
the hustle issue.
Yeah.
Which he's learned a lot since he's been in San Diego.
I think he was like labeled as a problem, and the Yankees probably didn't want to deal with that with the Yankees way.
Well, you remember with the Dodgers, like he was kind of an issue with the Dodgers when he got traded there.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of people who felt that he just wasn't giving
100%. Yeah, he wasn't all in. Yeah. So
but he's become such a big leader.
Yeah,
with the Padres,
he's grown.
I was a little disappointed.
I know. I saw when he was going to opt out.
Because he was like opt out. I was like, "Ooh, we're gonna
go in on that.
We're gonna go in on that, right? Because we're gonna need a third baseman next year with what we're gonna talk about
next. Yeah, and so I mean, I do think a little bit started with like the Jason Giambi signing in like what was 2005. I think it was 2001.
You're right. Sorry, he signed in 2001.
At the end of 2001, he was there for the 2002 season.
Was the letter where he was on steroids?
Yes, 2005 was his comeback season of the year. If I remember
after
right.
his steroid.
After the steroid
scandals.
Yes. Can't say suspensions yet because it wasn't part of the rules
at the time. But he was injured for most of
he was injured so much because he stopped taking steroids, and that's kind of what happens to your body when you stop taking steroids. So he just went from injury to injury, and I feel like I remember when that happened. It was like we lost the World Series. We have to get we decided not to re-sign Tino Martinez, and then they signed Jason Giambi for the 7-year contract. I forget how much it was, but 7 years. And I remember like, oh my God, that's a long time. And but it was supposed to be like this kind of savior kind of thing. Like he's going to come in and, hit all these home runs. We're going to be the Bronx Bombers again. We're going to get this back. And it, just injuries and, PR nightmares with all the steroid stuff. So I think even then it kind of started with like trying to backtrack on all the, spend, but not as much because, he did still
which is probably why 2008 came. So maybe some of those early issues why 2008 came as far as like the not making the playoffs in 2008, firing Joe Torre, hiring Joe Girardi, and then they spent all the money.
And boom, they win in the right places, and it's amazing.
And that was, I think that's the key too, is that you spent money in the right areas. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like AJ Burnett. People say that was a bad contract, but he was key for us in 2009. I mean, if you can help us win a World Series, I feel like you can't call that contract was bad.
Not at all. Yeah.
After 2009, he was not good. I remember being frustrated. He still has a good place in my heart for the fact,
those starts he had in the playoffs were key. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, I remember post 2009, anytime he was up, it was just like,
oh God.
Let's pray, or let's do whatever. Cross your fingers, or whatever you do. Like, that's kind of how you felt when AJ Burnett was up. But in 2009, he was a solid third in the rotation.
I count that as a good overall contract because of
CC came that year, which was like such a great move. Like,
signed Teixeira that year. Swisher, I know that doesn't get talked about as like big signings, but I'm sure as
he was a big
like,
clubhouse.
Yeah, it's like clubhouse atmosphere.
We needed him, and he was a good bat.
Yeah,
like people like for a 7-hole hitter.
Yeah, he was reliable.
He's much better than our 7-hole hitter now.
Yeah. True. I take Swish. I guess that kind of leads into where we are right now.
Yeah.
And, how the infamous, I guess, 3 hated Yankees that everybody talks about, whether, however they want to get rid of them, they want to get rid of them.
And so those 3 hated Yankees are IKF, Hicks, and Josh Donaldson, of course.
Yes. So they've, Josh Donaldson has really been a money suck, and that's the best way to describe it. I mean, we got him seemingly because no one else wanted him. And we really wanted IKF. And he was
so much better than Gio.
God, I miss Gio.
Yeah. So much better than Gio or Urshela.
Yeah.
According to Cashman, that, Gio's great, but like
an offensive upgrade.
Well, wasn't his quote like Gio's? We love Gio. Gio's great, but he's no Josh Donaldson.
Yeah, it was like, when
you look at the stats, it was like
stats last year than Josh Donaldson.
Yeah,
so
at very least, it was the exact same, if not better.
Yeah.
maybe Donaldson stole 2 more bases then.
Well, you can look at it. It was a true statement, just not the way they intended it.
Yeah,
that's rare for him. True statements, bullshit. They wanted IKF so bad that they were willing to take on the 2 years left on Donaldson's contract with $50 million left on it, so that he could take up.
And when you think of it, they basically wanted to pay Josh Donaldson $28 million for IKF.
Yeah. I mean,
$50 million.
$50 million, yeah. You got $23 million, I guess, this year.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, IKF is worth taking on Josh Donaldson's contract.
$50 million contract for 2 years. Like, it made no sense then. I remember at the time, just because his bat was still... It was still pretty consistent there. And so it's like, I don't like the fact that we have to pay him $50 million. Mm-hmm. Yeah, former MVP, comeback player of the year.
He starts the year with a walk-off hit. I don't think it was a home run, but yeah.
I think it was a walk-off single against the Red Sox, which is, I mean, if any way you're going to start off your Yankee career, that's a great way to do it.
It's almost the pinnacle of his Yankee career.
And it went downhill from there. I mean, I think it really went downhill from the Tyler Anderson...
all the TA stuff.
Tim Anderson, racism comments and
and then the Yankees really quickly kind of
they kind of ignored him
out of the spotlight on PR stuff, but
and they didn't defend him at all.
And I think even the players were like,
not great, and he was really upset about that. And post that issue, he just was never really the same.
And then ends the season with a smirk on his face because he gets out against, the Astros and got our asses handed to us.
Yeah. While watching a fastball go straight down the middle. I mean, and that was a constant thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when we went to the Tampa game in September, I remember he was up at bat, and I think he struck out again. And it was like a couple days after he did that, what was that thing where he was like waving off a guy and he was like pitch
I remember
throw me a fastball or something, throw a fastball, see what happens, and he was like, I threw you 3.
He's such the biggest talker,
and then he's kind of like dismissing him and
fly ball watcher like it's a home run,
pimps those fly balls like no one else does.
I'm so sick of Josh Johnson.
But I remember, at that game, there was, a Rays fan behind us while we were in line for concessions. I remember we, in particular, chose that half inning to go up because Donaldson was the first one up in that inning, and we were like, if we miss it, it's
and they got into a fight.
Yes, there was a fight.
There was, a brawl, not really a fight.
Not a brawl, but,
the dugout's
and it started with him.
Yeah.
And she was like, do you guys really,
like that guy,
she made how
on your team or
and
something.
We were and maybe it wasn't even to us. It was just maybe directed just in general of
oh, that guy.
Yeah,
and we're like, we agree.
We agree. That guy sucks. So I would say of those Yankees, Donaldson is my I hate Donaldson the most.
And not
Hicks
just his
second.
attitude, but it's also you're not producing the way you are. You're a 38-year-old former MVP, former MVP, and you're declining. Your bat speed declining. You can't.
Boone calling us all Yankee fans crazy for not expecting him to make a comeback. And I'm sorry,
gaslight comment of the offseason.
Yeah, greatest gaslighting comment.
Yeah.
But
you usually agree with Boone.
I agree with Boone a lot. But and I get that Boone is a player's coach, it's the thing that you want to have. But there's a difference between saying, look, last year was a uncharacteristically bad year, and we're hoping that he gets to what we expected. There's a difference between saying that and saying that you're crazy.
We think he has a great potential to come back.
Yeah.
Don't say you're crazy if you don't think he has can come back from that.
And maybe that's a ploy on their end to try to help get him traded.
Keep his trade value up.
I don't see him getting traded. I think everybody but the Yankees sees how bad he is. I think
they might even see it. It's an ego protection thing. And
I
mean, he hasn't
they didn't see it last year. That's for sure.
Been in many spring training games this year.
No, he's been.
And they've put IKF at third. Games. They've put Volpe have they put Volpe at third? Do I remember that right?
Yeah, they put Volpe at third. Yeah, he played at least one game of third. IKF's played third today, which I know this won't be aired today, but on Wednesday,
on the 15th,
March 15th, he played. IKF played third. Chaparro, who's came up mostly as a first baseman, has been playing a lot of third base.
Yeah, so I mean, those subtle things seem like they're moving
LeMahieu
on from
obviously
him,
playing
but
third.
I don't see a world where, unless Josh Donaldson is traded, that he is not starting third base for the Yankees on opening day.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's some
say,
small hope that they'll do what the Mets did with
I was going to say that
with Cano.
Because I know that we keep saying that, like, a lot of Yankee fans are wanting him to be DFA'd, but people also don't realize that Cano wasn't DFA'd until the first month of the season. They because they owe him money. They hope that maybe it's just a spring training. Yeah,
spring training. Sometimes stuff doesn't work out, and sure, let's give him the veterans deal where you find out for the month of the first part of the season, do you still have it?
I would be shocked if he plays like he was from May on, like he was playing May on last year. If he plays like that in the first month in April, I don't see him lasting long. I mean, there comes to a point where they have to realize.
Cut ties.
Ties.
They did it with if you can do it to A-Rod. If you can do it to A-Rod.
And I would say A-Rod had a much deeper connection to Yankees. I get the suspension. I get the bad blood.
His
during the end,
public image at that point too was
great.
Public enemy number one kind of thing.
Right. I get that, but he at least gave something to New York. Josh Donaldson hasn't, other than all the issues that have come in.
So if you can do it to A-Rod, you can do it to Josh Donaldson. I really hope that they do pull that trigger.
Yeah.
Someone else who we wish they would just DFA and get rid of is Hicks. I was, because I love the Yankees, because I had a feeling that they weren't going to DFA Hicks, I was at the beginning of the season hopeful. For the first week of spring training, he looked decent. He looked good. He had a home run. His batting average was, batting average, spring training, but his batting, he was hitting the ball, which for Hicks, I mean,
his batting average now, again, we can talk about batting average, but the one thing that I've noticed a lot so far, and one of the things that people don't, why it's hard to evaluate spring training baseball is because there are a lot of times veterans especially are coming into you've talked about this before, coming into a spring training focused on one thing.
They're trying to hit a certain pitch.
And I think that you can kind of see that maybe with Hicks, because Hicks is known for being a walking type of player.
And they were mentioning something
about
his hand position. I haven't looked at last year versus this year, but they were mentioning something about his hand position
is different.
Like it was higher.
Okay.
And that first week they were like, maybe it's working. Look at this. Look at that. Oh wow.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I just noticed, and it could just be a coincidence kind of thing, because him and Donaldson, IKF's played 9 games, Donaldson's played 8, but Hicks has 24 at bats versus Donaldson, which has 19, but. I was like, oh, maybe they're keeping him in the game longer. But more of what it is that, Donaldson has 4 walks, IKF has none. And I don't think I think that might be a Hicks intentional thing. I think he's trying not to take, and this is just me more doing a quick analyzation of these stats, because we know IKF, part of the reason why the Yankees front office likes Hicks, the reason why he was brought on is because he was an on-base machine. He walked a lot.
Oh God, had flashbacks to why'd you pinch hit for Hicks there, or why didn't you pinch hit for Hicks there? And it was like, well, we're looking for the walk.
It was why we did, Hicks was in that at bat, and it was like.
You're looking for we're hoping to get a walk. So you just said to everybody, we have no hopes that he's going to hit the ball.
Yeah.
The switch hitter that we have where we're lacking lefties in the lineup and we're hoping he walks.
Yeah.
That was, not that was, maybe it was the straw, but it was just you've got to be kidding. This is what the value you see in this guy, but you continue to play him.
And so, I don't know if this is the case or not, but with his strikeouts being up, he's got 9 strikeouts in those 24 at bats. I feel like maybe he's intentionally trying to swing at more pitches to find his swing.
Well, I'm sure he knows.
I don't think walking right now during spring training helps him find that swing. So
I'm sure he knows his job is on the line.
Yeah, and so I think that's why we're seeing maybe some of those stats. So that's why averages on base percentages, all these things are very difficult to examine because these players are trying to attack these at-bats differently than they maybe would in the regular season. But I do agree, he started off first week decent.
Yeah.
And now we're in third week of the...
And he's back to being an Eeyore.
Yeah.
Was it today? I think it was today. I was watching the game and he struck out and he walks back to the dugout with his head down.
Didn't he get an error recently too? Is that today?
That was earlier this week, late last week. He first play of the game was kind of similar to that god awful what he thought was a foul ball, had two runners on and he's just and then they actually pulled him out at that time. But very similar play. But this time he didn't. It was similar in the fact that he didn't get it going into foul territory, but it wasn't foul, and it was a fair ball. But he did at the very least get back to it and get the ball in. But I think later that game is the game he hit a home run in, I think.
Maybe.
So maybe it was that long, it was actually a couple weeks ago that this happened. But, there was that. The woe is me attitude looks like it's back again.
Yeah. And that was something that I think at the beginning of the spring training that we saw that was a little bit of a positive thing from him is that he acknowledged how bad he was last year. Because last year, the thing that pissed me off more than anything is you can be shit. I think you can everybody goes through their slumps, right? We are...
Talk to Stanton, yeah.
Yeah. But Stanton, if he sucks, he says, I suck.
Yeah. He said, I'd boo me too.
Yeah. And I think that is important. I think Tyone even, though he just he signed with the Cubs, he was talking on one of the podcasts and he was said, because there was a lot of conversation about do Yankee fans are Yankee fans too hard on the players and blah blah which I think was a lot of a BS story from
probably the front office
gifted story, but Tyone was said when we get booed, we know it's because these fans care. Yeah. And I was pitching bad. Want us to leave in
the 7th inning?
Yeah. He was I was pitching bad, And so, when it comes down to it, we understand that these players are going to be bad, but the Clint Frazier's, Jackson Frazier's of baseball. I think he's
back to Clint Frazier again.
Is he?
Yeah.
Whatever it is, but these type of players, Hicks,
just
Donaldson,
about fans voicing their opinion.
You got to take some ownership of that. You are not playing well, and I think he even Again, you have Boone, who we've said before, who is a player's coach. He takes him out in that inning where he puts his head down. You have to take him out. And he shouldn't have been playing, in the first place, but you have to take him out at that point. He's shaken up, obviously, from, just obviously an embarrassing moment for him.
Yeah, can you imagine what the left field fans were saying?
Yeah. So you got to take him out of that. Of that position. And I'm not saying that there is no toxic Yankee fans. I think when it came down to Gallo last year, there was a lot of people wishing him ill.
IKF's father got a
death threat
which I think is one person, but
still that's over the top.
Yeah, and that's not way over the top. Boo all you want. Yeah. But
let's not
you draw the line at threats well personal. Before threats, how about?
But I think it was it after that game or around that game where Hicks basically called out Boone for the issue is that he doesn't get enough playing time.
Yeah, I remember.
You get too much playing time. What are we talking about?
I wish I had more consistent playing time or something, more consistent at bats or something. It was excuse me?
If I were to go look, he had one of the most at bats.
I bet he did.
on the Yankees last season, like one of the higher up. Like at least at that time, I remember looking at it and being like, "You're one of the top 5 in at bats this season." I think we had this conversation.
It was like he had the gall to say what?
Yeah.
About Boone?
Yeah. And I think he retracted a bit of that at the beginning of the season, saying it was a really tough year for him, and he recognizes that he was not playing well, and he hopes to win back the Yankee fans. And I think that's what you want to see. We haven't seen much of Donaldson talk about anything.
He did. I did see one interview where he recognized that last year was a down year, and you just want to make sure you can
put it behind you and
your typical stuff to say to Meredith and and
again we said this before. It's hard to judge specifically on spring training. I don't think Donaldson's been doing much of anything. He hasn't honestly played much, which is honestly, and we haven't heard injury as the reason why.
I haven't said anything about injury. I think he played yesterday, and I think he's one of the ones that hit a home run yesterday. He's only got, it wasn't on TV, so how would we know? But
8 games so far this season.
That's it. Okay. Yeah, I mean,
and for some of these guys, it's similar. You've got Judge, who's only played in 7. Rizzo has only played in 6.
Stanton's probably haven't played as many.
Stanton's played only in 7.
I mean, they could be treating him in the same way, but I do think some of the ones where he has played, he's gone to the split squad game. And they never, rarely send anybody
I think Judge
who
was the
they
only one
value.
Who played. The second game of the year, Judge played in a split squad game, but it was the first home.
But it was at home. So that's what's like, if they have a split squad game, they're going to keep the big names at home. Yeah. Now, at what they keep saying is that Josh Donaldson is a big name, right? Yeah. Josh Donaldson has all this potential.
However, in the star game that they played last week, Josh Donaldson
he was in the almost full lineup game. I looked at that game.
I remember seeing that and being like, "That's our opening day roster."
I was going to text you and say, "Oh, look. This is our opening day lineup probably, and without Bader. Bader wasn't in that game." And I was like, that's weird. And it was that day where they were like, "Ooh, he has an oblique injury." Like, son of a...
And I did see it's just doubtful for opening day, so there's no current... now, he's probably not going to play opening day, but there is no current suggestion right now that he's going to be starting the IL. Versus...
That's a little better than I thought.
We've got Rodon on the IL to start the year. We're going to have Montas, but he's going to be most of the year. Canley's going to start the year on the IL. I think...
Rizzo was only out for like a game with his back, but that's
they're being concerning. And they have been still very... he's only played 6 games.
Right, like he's not, So we lost my train of thought again. I'm sorry.
Hicks, I think on a contract wise too, probably the why I hate, like it's going to be in a trend with each of these. My level of hate kind of goes along with the amount of money.
How much money we pay him.
I Donaldson. There's a bigger gap between my hatred of Donaldson to Hicks than there is between Hicks and IKF. And it kind of relates to the money. I mean, I think with Hicks, it's 3 years left, around almost $30 million.
Yeah, so
29.5.
$10 million a year ish.
Yeah, I think he's technically under contract for 4 years, but the 4th year is a club option. Where $12.5 million, we're not re-signing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and at the time that we made this contract, 7 years, $70 million in 2019. I remember being happy, not ecstatic, not like this is going to solve all our problems, but okay, cool. We're keeping a good player is what I thought at the time. I mean,
good
he's
defensive player. 2018 was the year that he had that ridiculous
crazy
catch
on the warning track against the Twins.
Yeah.
I mean, again, peak for Hicks.
Yeah.
After that, injury after injury, which some of it, how can you deal with it? And then he had the shoulder, and then that turned into the wrist injury. And so, sure, he's had some issues, and I think that's also why Yankee fans are frustrated, because you've given him time to come back from these things, and we've never seen a good season, really, since that 7-year contract was signed.
Given to him, And I think, and again, last year, we gave him all the opportunities, and... he doesn't perform, and then he pouts.
And then he pouts about it. And then he even if it is a foul ball, like, why are you, again, referring to the blunder out there where he, let 2 runs in.
Which was like the epitome of the...
Like, how do you still hang your head?
Yeah.
You're in Yankee Stadium. You're playing left field for the Yankees. Hold your head up high and get back into the clubhouse and cry about it.
And what's crazy about it too, right, with when it comes to Hicks is so a polaristic type of player. Like, you have that awful moment. And prior to that, the big Hicks moment, like the most notable Hicks moment, like good or bad, was his big home run against the Astros, where he's like, season, right? About fucking time.
Yeah. I mean, I was ecstatic at that. Yeah. I hoped at that point that would spark him and be something that he could build off of. And
it was just such an electrifying moment.
Yeah, I
feel like there was no more electrifying home runs outside of Judge and Stanton.
Yeah.
When it came to just the beauty of the home run, how it happened. And of course, it is a Hicks struggling, and he hits that home run, and he's got like the swagger reaction. I mean, that's the Hicks that we loved in 2018, and you only see very, very small glimmers of it. And I think it's just time that
either put up or DFA the guy, because you've got these young kids that are around. He's taking up roster space.
Yeah.
If he can't perform, then why are we keeping him?
Yeah.
And that brings us, well, it doesn't really bring us to, but the last person on our list is IKF. We signed him to avoid arbitration to a 1 year, $6 million deal, like almost right away.
And I think what people don't realize with that contract, because there's people who are pissed online about that contract. Why are we paying IKF $6 million? Or to be a really bad, why are we paying him $6 million to be at worst case scenario, for us watching a everyday shortstop. Best case scenario, he's a bench player. Bench players don't get paid $6 million, which is true, but he was under arbitration. And so for those who don't know what arbitration is, that is basically when the club basically owns you outright. And not even under a contract, they own you outright. They kind of get to, you don't get to really request trades in the same way that like somebody who is under a contract can request trades. He's under arbitration, so basically the Yankees had to say, we think you are owed this much. And on the players' end, what they get to do is at least say, I think I'm owed this much.
Yeah.
And
or they can accept what the club offers. And
giving him $6 million was because I think he got 4.5 last year. And you have to give him more money than you gave him last year, just because that's how arbitration stuff works. You got to give the person more. And if they had said $5 million, I guarantee that IKF would have said, I think I'm worth $6.5 million.
Right. Then they go to arbitration.
Then they go to court, and that would still be going on now. So if they did want to trade him, and I think the reason they went so quickly is because you want to trade him. If he's under an arbitration court battle, you cannot trade him. He cannot be part of trading proceedings. He cannot be cut. Like, he has to have a decided
arbitration
contract.
Always confuses me, so I forget that kind of aspect of
so
that. So but yeah, I mean, I think people who have disillusioned themselves into thinking, I get it, the front office, you can't trust them, they're good, they make stupid decisions, but they did say this is a stopgap for the young young guys.
Kids.
And the way they've been using him this year, I don't know the splits of how much he's played at each position, but they're moving him around. I mean, tomorrow today he's at third, tomorrow they're putting him in center field. He's not going to be our opening day center fielder or anywhere, even the second option. Like, I guarantee you it's going to be Judge, probably Hicks in left, and like Cabrera thrown in there.
Yeah.
But he's the third option probably for the outfield. I think you should be encouraged that they're looking for other spots. He's going to be a
Marwin Gonzalez. He's going to be an overpaid Marwin Gonzalez. Yeah. But I also feel like people miss the fact that IKF does bring value that we don't have a lot of on the Yankees team. They haven't been
utilizing him the way he should be, but
he should not be an everyday shortstop. I mean, at the end of the day, like, again, he was a stopgap. We had Didi who was great for the years that he was really good.
Great swing for Yankee Stadium.
I love him. Sad that he, we did not re-sign him. He went off to Philly. Obviously, we were very focused on trying to get Cole during that offseason.
Yeah, I think there was a little hard feelings there, so that's disappointing.
But at the end of the day, they made the right decision not to re-sign him. He fell off really quickly, and that's sad to see. Again, I will always remember Didi's swagger home run against the Twins.
Yeah.
I think those are great moments from Didi. But we had Didi.
We needed
he
a
left.
stopgap.
Torres tried at shortstop the following year. Was not good.
Yeah, and I think it was 2020 and 2021. Torres was our opening day shortstop.
Yeah.
And yeah, that didn't work.
It didn't work.
So,
and Torres is a second baseman.
He's great at second. And I hate the fact that he gets pulled into conversations about that we should trade him. I get his trade value is good. He's probably value is...
We need that line. But
we need that bat. Yeah, I hate the fact that Josh Donaldson doesn't get talked about to be gotten rid of to make room when it's Gleyber Torres.
If you look at all the stats batting-wise last year, Torres is our number 2 across the board.
He was amazing last year. He had
one horrible month of August.
Yes,
and it was during the time when we were...
in his feelings.
And it was there, because he was in all those trade talks.
Yeah.
And I think you had said it before, is that he needs to realize that he's in trade talks for good reasons. He's not in trade talks...
Flip the way you're thinking about this. You're in trade talks because you're valuable. You're not in trade talks because they want
to get rid of you.
They are in.
They're trying to get on it.
Anybody who doesn't think Donaldson, Hicks, and IKF aren't also in trade talks, but if they get sent somewhere, you got to package him. They got to be packaged with somebody else, somebody that is worthwhile to trade.
Any Donaldson trade, any Donaldson IKF or Hicks trade is going to be similar to Gallo trade, where you get a AA prospect.
Yeah, here's your MLB ready player, kind of. Yeah. And here's a prospect. So bye Peraza probably, or someone else that is maybe still in the minor.
Well, I met Gallo last year. Was he was we got rid of Gallo and just got Beater in return, who is not an MLB ready prospect. Right. That's the type of trades that Donaldson, Hicks, and IKF would be in, whereas Torres was in trade talks to get Pablo Lopez.
Yeah, you get MLB ready players.
I mean, I think that was the main one.
That was the Marlins one that fell through that he heard about, and then we lost Monty, and
because of
and then so everyone's sad that Monty's leaving, and then Gleyber is just in his feelings because the Yankees don't want me, and there was a quote in the offseason how. Hey, did they come to you talk about any trade talk contract extensions? He's like, I wish. Oh, poor Gleyber.
Yeah.
But
I think I hope Gleyber uses this year as a Judge type of year. I mean, I don't expect the same type of year.
No, we're not talking 62 home runs, but hopefully he uses it as a way to show people this is what I am.
Yeah, this is what I am.
I unfortunately don't think Gleyber is on the team next year, but. And I mean, it makes sense that they might trade him before the trade deadline.
With the young players that we have too, it's a very big possibility. And I think keeping Torres depends on how good we are at the trade deadline. If we're a team that can win a World Series, we have to keep Torres around. But if we are a team that, or we trade him if we're a team that can win the World Series, but Volpe is up. Peraza's playing really well. Cabrera's playing really well,
and now he's and we can trade for a starting pitching, which we
probably will need.
Now need.
But I think going back to IKF, I think IKF is a really good bench player, and I know I had said this on Twitter recently, and I kind of got some flack from somebody about it, saying that I'm surprised IKF still has fans. I think IKF is not one of my favorite players. Certainly not. Again, there's a reason why this conversation is talking about our three hated players. He's obviously not on my favorite Yankees list. But when it comes down to what he brings to the team off the bench, maybe playing more third base, he's a backup catcher that he was never used for. Yeah. And he's now playing a little bit of outfield. When he has bases loaded or runners in scoring position, he's crazy good. I mean, bases loaded, correct me if I'm wrong, 583 batting average, bases loaded.
Slugging percentage, 1,000. Believe it or not.
I mean, that big grand slam against the Red Sox.
Helps IKF day, right?
Helps your slugging percentage. I think that was his first home run of the year, too, was that one.
I think it was.
But, I mean, that one was, I mean, you could say, well, did he have 2 at-bats with bases? No, he had 12 at-bats and he had 7 hits with bases loaded. How many RBIs? I think you have the list pulled up.
Bases loaded, 18 RBIs.
18 RBIs with bases loaded and 12 at-bats.
Scored 9 runs off of those, those at 12 up himself. So, he has a role. He's a contact hitter. We don't have a whole lot of those.
No.
And the ones we do have always get injured.
Yeah, and when you look at Baseball Savant, it's really funny. Look at his Baseball Savant compared to Judge. He is the opposite.
In every category.
Every category. Judge is 99% almost everything down the line when it comes to the hitting stats. IKF is almost 0 on most of them. But there's 2 that it's the opposite.
Speed, probably.
Contact percentage.
Oh, right.
It's the 3. Contact percentage, whiff percentage. His whiff percentage is 99%. So he does not miss the ball much. And his strikeout percentage is 99%.
Right. So, he's a contact hitter. I bet his double plays are probably up.
I think he had the most double plays on the team.
So you're going to get that trade-off with a contact hitter. The Yankees don't need another player with pop. They don't. They have a lot of those. We're you can never say you're good in that category. You always want more power. You always want another. But IKF doesn't need to be that person. As long as IKF can come off the bench in a key spot
and I think that's a big key part of it too, is that last year you saw more of the double plays because he's starting every game. Yeah. For the most part, he's mostly starting shortstop almost daily. He's starting shortstop. So he has to play in every situation. If he's a bench player, they can use him in those positions where he's, if we're in the 8th inning and we're down by 2 runs and bases are loaded, he's on the bench and you have Trevino coming up, or you have, Hicks up to, up in that inning, or you have a Peraza. Peraza's not great in those situations. Obviously you're not going to bench him or you're not going to pinch hit him for Judge or
not usually.
No, probably not for Stanton. I don't think for Rizzo.
For Trevino or
Trevino, Hicks. Some of these players, he can come into that situation and he's proven. I mean, 12 at bats maybe doesn't sound like a lot, but when you have 12 at bats and 7 hits and 18 RBIs, that is something we lack.
Even runners in scoring position, period. He has 113 of those at-bats, and his batting average is .327. His OPS is .752. Now, you can argue that's not stellar.
No, he's not a big OPS guy.
No, yeah. So, the average, when you have bases loaded, is important. Yeah. That means he's put the ball in play without outs.
Yeah, and I know people don't like batting average when it comes to an overall season, but when it comes to situation, the reason why people don't like it is because of situational hitting. Players tend to be really bad in situational hitting where they have runners on. IKF is kind of the opposite of that. When he's by himself or with 2 outs, he's really bad.
Yeah.
Or with one guy on first base, he's probably really bad because he grounds out into double plays. I think one of the interesting things too, without the shift, I think part of this comes with the shift. Right, because in those situations, they're going to be shifted. Yeah. Without runners on last year, you're going to be shifted. Yeah. With 2 outs, you're going to be shifted because you don't need to hold people. Right. You're going to be shifted. So, when those players had to be out of those positions, that's when he hit better. Yeah. So I don't know if that's going to translate specifically. It hasn't translated yet this spring training.
Yeah, not that he's doing stellar,
but he's not doing terrible.
We're IKF's biggest fans, but and in no means do either of us want IKF to start the season at shortstop. He does not. He is not the starting shortstop. He doesn't belong there. Yeah. The Yankees don't even believe in him at short. They didn't want to put any effort in improving his defense.
Boone's comment even recently. A lot of people were upset about it, but I think it proved that he's not going to be the opening day shortstop because he said, I think IKF is a guy who could play 4 to 5 days a week for us.
Yeah, and I mean,
or maybe 5 to 6.
Brian Hoke had a
comment recently.
A comment today about from Boone that, like, what was it? I can't remember, but it was, people again were mad. He's been starting center field tomorrow, but it's like, listen to what he's saying.
Yeah.
He's not starting at short. They're looking for utility roles for him.
Yeah.
Like these are good signs for Volpe and Peraza.
Yeah.
I don't know between the two of them. I think you can make arguments between the two of these young guys that could start at short. You can make an argument for both of them, and I would be happy with whoever won. I think Volpe's bat is certainly speaking much louder than Peraza's bat right now.
Yeah, Volpe has been stellar.
Yeah, I mean, I watched a game the other day. He had a home run and a double.
He's steal bases.
He steals bases, but even the double that he had was like a wall scraper.
Yeah.
And it was almost out.
Yeah.
And so his swing is beautiful. He hits, and again looks like it's made perfectly for Yankee Stadium. So to me, I mean, I retract my statement from last week that I don't know if he starts the opening day. He should start.
I think I said it last week. Volpe is the number one shortstop in the Yankees organization. It's just by far that's what I mean. I like Peraza. I think he's got good defense. I think by the end of the season, if Torres is hitting really well and Volpe is doing well, Peraza is probably the guy who's going to get traded. That's my opinion.
I think he's odd man out. Set up for a little bit for Peraza to be traded. I hope Donaldson
gets DFA'd, and then we can have DJ starting at third.
That's our best team there.
And Torres playing second with Volpe at short, I think would be with
DJ's
Rizzo at
still
first.
Able to roam. Yeah.
That is a great infield, and if you have that setup, I don't know. I like that setup.
I like that better. It's much more athletic.
And I like Peraza. I don't really necessarily want him to be traded, but just from what I've seen so far,
if someone came to you and says you have to pick Peraza or Volpe, I mean,
I'm picking Peraza
to trade.
Peraza to trade. Volpe to be my starting shortstop. Yeah. He's got good exit velocity.
He's got a good attitude.
I mean, good attitude. Did you see that?
Judge loves him.
Yeah.
What else do you need?
Yeah. Did you see that thing where he met
Jeter?
No, a veteran.
When he was little?
No, he met a veteran recently.
Oh, okay.
But not a veteran. It was maybe it was Nolan Ryan or someone a legend.
Oh, okay.
And immediately as he came up to him, he takes off his hat, shakes his hand, and
nice.
Sweet. Very, very respectful kind of guy. I think Michael Kay made a comment about how
just what a good
guy he is. Yeah. Someone that you want around the locker room.
I mean, he kind of to me, don't want to put too much pressure on him, but kind of sounds like the Judge attitude, made to be a Yankee.
Yeah.
He embodies the Yankee spirit. And, what better person to put a shortstop than, to fill a long, to be there for a long time than,
Yeah, and Hal made a comment recently on these young players. You got Oswaldo, and I think Oswaldo's kind of coming into his own as well, just being that guy who can play anywhere. And I think we're going to see a lot of Oswaldo starting.
Oswaldo's great.
Love Oswaldo. He's another guy who's got a great attitude. But with those guys, Oswaldo, Peraza, Volpe, even Jason Dominguez, though I don't think he is going to start on any our official roster.
I don't think we need to push that. I mean,
he's still only 20 years old.
Yeah, I think if Bader's injury isn't that serious, there's no reason to push it at all.
And I think there's other guys that would bring him up for it. I think Calhoun would be up before him. Yeah. I mean, Calhoun's a veteran guy who I think would play that. Yeah, I think you got to put.
Yeah, Dominguez needs at bats in AAA.
Domingo hasn't even been in AAA yet. So
and love what he's doing in spring training, but needs at bats in AAA.
Hal made a comment that said, when you have young players who are playing really well, you got to give them their opportunities, just as they did with Judge.
Sign.
And I know Judge came up later, but Judge also got drafted when he was 21. These guys were drafted 18 or even younger. I think
Dominguez was
16 years old.
Was it 16?
15, maybe even younger.
Yeah, I mean, he was signed when he was
Volpe was drafted at 18 years old. Peraza, Cabrera were young guys coming in.
So these guys are exciting, and it is a shame that some of the three hated Yankees, or at least two of them, are hindering them.
Yeah, especially Donaldson. Donaldson's the main hindrance because he plays in the infield. I know IKF plays in the infield too.
And they see the value, the dollar amount that they're paying him, and they want him to do well. Of course, they want him to do well. So this is really
Again, my belief is you're already paying the $28 million. So get rid of him and get the guy who's going to be productive. I mean, you already are on the hook for $28 million. I get that you wish that was Donaldson, but it's not going to be him. Get rid of Donaldson. Pay that $28 million to Volpe. Volpe's not getting the money. Let's not waste any
more years of Judge and Cole, and let's can we please win this?
Yeah, especially with the injuries this year.
Yeah. So. Yeah, so again, the next couple weeks, we're about 2 weeks from tomorrow. 2 weeks from tomorrow is opening day. Yep. So, we will, next week, I think we're
going to go over some maybe predictions in the next couple before.
Maybe that's in a couple of weeks. Next week, I'm not really sure what's on the docket. Producer Cliff, do you know what's on the docket next week? Sorry to throw you on the spot there. We can do a recap of spring training next week. 1 week left. What do we want to see? That can be part of it.
Oh, and if we have the game Saturday.
Recap of the game on Saturday.
There is a game.
Yeah, okay. So, we'll go back someplace better than Applebee's, but we are scheduled to go to the game on Saturday, the 18th in Dunedin. And we right now are seeing on the weather apps that it has either between a 40% chance to rain at 1 o'clock or a 90% chance to thunderstorm at 1 o'clock. So, unfortunately, that one may or may not happen, and like Cliff said, we may be driving
a long way
just to go to
hang out
lunch.
in Dunedin.
But Dunedin's a cool town, so that's all right. But hopefully, fingers crossed, we get to actually watch a game middle of spring training. Usually, you get to see at least a decent lineup, typically. So
let's hope for Judge.
Yeah, hope for Judge.
Especially because we haven't seen Judge a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, Volpe's very
probably
probable.
Don't have to hope for it. Probably
Volpe plays a lot.
Yeah. Hope for Dominguez. That'd be fun to see.
Dominguez would be fun to see. Yeah.
Hopefully we see the game. Hopefully next pod we're talking to you about what we saw at the game instead of going and getting rained out. But that and just kind of what we've got left. With spring training and what we want to see after that. So that'll be some of the things that we talk about next week. So we thank you for watching. Thanks for listening to us for about an hour. And please like and subscribe if you liked listening to our video. And join us next week. And follow us on social media at @damyanks_pod on Twitter and Instagram, and at @damyankspod on Facebook. Did I get that right?
You did.
So yes, please go there and follow us. We will see you next time.
See ya.